As I got into neurosurgery, I realized that I can empathize with my patients who suffer from neurological deficits. My recovery from the stroke took about 6 months to fully recover. It was a routine scuba dive, nothing complex. I had dived to about 110 feet of water, and on the surfacing made a decompression stop, and at the surface was scuba diving, snorkeling at the end of the dive. And then about 5 minutes later, I got very confused, and I couldn't swim, and the water was choppy. I started taking in water, and I was struggling, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't swim. And I eventually blacked out. And I was unconscious, and they pulled me out of the water onto the ship, performed CPR. I wasn't breathing at the time. And I just remember waking up and seeing a crowd of people looking at me. And the Coast Guard was taking me into the hospital to the hyperbaric chamber. And I remember being on the boat and feeling an arm across my chest bouncing as the boat was going into shore. And I didn't know whose arm it was. So I reached over and I grabbed it, and it was attached to my body. And that was when I first realized that I couldn't feel or move the right side of my body, and where I had a bubble that had gone to my brain and was blocking the blood supply to my brain. And under the decompression chamber, that compressed that bubble back down into a liquid form and restored blood flow and started to regain sensation and motor movements. I was released from the hospital about 2 weeks later. And it took a good 6 months to completely recover back to where I could even have good penmanship again. I mean, I know what it's like to wake up and not be able to talk, or to move your arm, or to walk. And it wasn't until I started my clinical rotations that I discovered neurosurgery, completely fell in love with the field, and I knew at that moment that was the right match for me. As a neurosurgeon at part of UT Health San Antonio, in the neuroscience department, I've been able to take from my own experience and see it realized across a broader scale to the people of San Antonio, Baird County, and beyond. Maybe one of the most satisfying parts of my job is seeing patients who have had a neurological injury make a recovery and be able to get back to their families and spend time with their families, back in the community, back to work, back to church, back to leisurely activities, and seeing them return back, and seeing the satisfaction and the gratefulness of the families is probably one of the greatest parts of my job.